vast majority of PMSCs provide actually legitimate services that are benign or quite beneficial from even a human rights law perspective or even IHL perspective. However, there is another trend which is more concerning, an evolution where we have PMSCs that are being contracted for actually conflict aggravating and or illegal ends. From an international humanitarian law perspective, so the body of law that applies mainly in armed conflict situations, you do not have even the mention of the notion of private military and security companies, and even less a typology of companies.
We have mercenaries, and the reality is that some other actors, whether we call them private military companies, whether we call them private military and security companies, whether we call them private security companies, doesn't matter. In some circumstances, they may meet the definition of a mercenary. And the reality is that there are some actors which, on any given day, will not meet the definition of mercenary, that they provide legitimate private security services. But the problem is that they have, in doing so, in carrying out the provision of these services, they have been using firearms against local civilian populations. They've been arbitrarily killing people without any due process.
The main issue is the legal issue. You need to figure out that if you perform specific type of services in specific type of circumstances, you may be prosecuted under specific law. So there are repercussions. So this is the main takeaway that goes beyond the definitions. Some of those services, the moment that you provide them inside conflict area, inside security setting, though you may say that it's just self-defense or it seems benign, they can be considered, in fact, as part of the military operation.
That IHL would apply to anyone in the context of an armed conflict situation, irrespective of the label. All the companies and individuals working for those companies and being deployed in armed conflict have to abide by international humanitarian law. We don't have a convention that deals with the obligations as such of PMSCs. What we have is the Montreux document from 2008, but it's a soft law document, so it's non-binding, but it relates to states' obligations in relation to the PMSCs. Organizations like ICoCA, like Geneva Call, like the ICSC can really engage also the ones who are known for violating the law, and I think this is where we should focus on in the years to come.
What is new and what is different about contemporary mercenaries or actors that appear to meet the definition of mercenary is that they are proxy actors. We've issued several allegation letters in relation to states recruiting mercenaries from a variety of different countries, very often already conflict-affected countries, and transferring those recruits to different armed conflicts. In the past, the number of mercenaries that might have been deployed might have been a few dozen. Maybe up to a few hundred. What we're seeing today are mercenaries being deployed in the thousands, and that has huge implications when it comes to accountability and holding these actors accountable for human rights violations and the commission of war crimes. We have to be serious about the fact that, as we currently stand, there is a huge regulatory and accountability gap when it comes to these kinds of actors.
Misinformation and disinformation in the PMC sector, the grey area and the mercenary, is very convenient because you cannot point the finger and to find the culprit. Wagner Group is always called by Western media, not by Russia at the beginning, as a private military company. What is private in Russia and what is public is still open to debate, but especially with a company that is just an umbrella term that have inside militia, paramilitary, special force, professional, that are being deployed, as the Western like to say, the tip of the spear of Russia foreign policy. At the moment, we are living at an inflection point. The global security arena is in transition. The United States is moving to its previous role of offshore security balancer, meaning that the US is going to intervene with less boots on the ground, with more over-the-horizon operation, where it fit. The name of the game today in security is regional recalibration. The regional power are trying to have more scope and more possibility of maneuver. There are a lot of new and old, non-traditional, non-state security actors that range from private military company, that is still a definition that is anchored to Iraq and Afghanistan, and to mercenary, that is a much old definition. If we look at Turkey, that is one of the area of operation that we see the future of private military / security / mercenary, whatever you want to call it, because they can change the head operationally in different areas.